everybody, and welcome to this edition of Discussing Digital. And today I'm discussing digital marketing with Julian Knopf of Gander Media Solutions. Hi, Julian. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about your business to start with?
Yeah, I guess I can. So, hi, my name's Julian, and Gander Media Solutions is my business, and I'm really your digital content creator partner. So, if you need visuals for your business, that's me. I kind of started off in photography and brought that about, and so headshots and behind the scenes and all the kinds of things that you want from that. And then latterly and most recently, which we'll probably get into a little bit in the conversation, I'm sure, videos and animations. And really what I'm trying to do is give you a bold and dynamic original presence on the screen so you stand out from the crowd and help you to educate, inform, entertain and interact with the people who follow you.
Oh, excellent. And a nice way to slip in your 3 words for the year, which is something we might come on to as well.
Absolutely.
So obviously we talk sort of the main thrust is about for the conversation is really about how you're using digital marketing to grow your business. Obviously we'll sort of into various things depending on how the conversation goes. But can you just talk through a little bit about how you're using digital marketing? Obviously, you said you'll help people with their content creation, so obviously digital marketing is quite an important part of it.
Yeah, well, first things first. I do all of my social media presence myself, as opposed to patching that as everybody. I'm a creative at heart, and I use all of the social platforms to tell people what I do, how I do it, and bring in awareness of what I do. So. Really, it's kind of moving with the times and keeping on top of the presence of that on different platforms and different things. I use a lot of photography with text behind it to explain who I am and what I'm doing. More recently now, with new platforms like TikTok and Instagram moving to videos and reels, I'm using more and more of that to show behind the scenes content, to bring shoots that I do to life, show people what happens. My About Me video, which has been really good for people, and really just to be front and center of everybody's mind. I think the problem that we all have is that it's a wild market out there. There's a lot of people who do something the same or very similar to you, and you really have to keep your presence and activity up there to show people what you're doing, to show them a variety of things, but also to show them who you are and everything else. Words don't just cut it like they used to. Here we are doing a digital podcast, so we need the vocals to go with it. And the visual content is what I use, both for myself and then for people who come to me and go, I need these things to make my life be a little bit better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Really good summary. And on the back of that, actually, because you mentioned your About Me video, and you'd actually commented about that when I asked you in the pre-meet form about what your most successful post had been, and you mentioned that. So do you want to talk a bit more about it? Because I did manage to get to watch it once I'd won the fight with my computer this afternoon. And it's really cool, actually. And interestingly, on it, it's some of the content you've used obviously is from a different time. You had quite short hair during some of it.
I did, yeah. So this is depending on where you know me from life. I either had shoulder length hair and a big wild woolly thing, which happened until I was kind of in my 20s, and then it got progressively shorter until a couple of 3 years ago when I thought, I'm going to grow it out and see how it looks, and it's been very well received. So it's staying for the moment. But yes,
well, at least you have that option.
Well, exactly. My luscious locks, I'm kind of showing off a little bit, I think. But it is an interesting point, because a lot of people will say, I can't use footage from back then because I've changed a little bit. Well, still you're still doing your thing. You're perfectly entitled to have a haircut. Whatever else, change your glasses. Look, I'm wearing clear ones today, but the bloke over my shoulder's got dark and rimmed ones. But yeah, About Me's are really interesting because, first of all, having video on your website will put you higher up the ranking, and we're all trying to get seen and done and things like that. Secondly, if a picture's worth 1,000 words and there's 25 frames in every second of video that you put together, and if a video is 60 minutes long, then you've got about 1 million words to use. But you've got to use them wisely. and you've got to, you know, have the captivating things that are going to make people stay and watch and do and put everything else together. And, you know, I suspect if I could see the people out there watching this and ask them to put their hands up if they had an About Me page on their website, then 99% of them would put their hand up and go, yeah, of course I have. You'd be sort of foolish not to. And you've got a load of text and you tell people about your family and your dog and how you got to where you are and stuff, but do people really read it? So an About Me video that I've put together is really a bit more about engaging people, showing them who I am, what I do, and then a bit of behind the scenes of what I'm up to. And I think, working from memory now, and I haven't got the storyboard next to me, but I think it opens up with telling you who I am and telling you that the most important thing that I do is actually look after my pet dog, and I love a barbecue and play a guitar every now and again. And then we get into I'm a photographer and I take pictures at events, and there's a bit of me dancing in an event with a camera in my hand, and this or that and the other, and until it comes along. And it's been really well received. And your question is, you know, what's your most successful post? It comes down to almost a question of going, well, how do you measure success?
Yeah.
Vanity metrics like, 900,000 people looked at it. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Or so many likes or so many things. The question I asked in my mind when you say this, because I have posts with higher views, but ultimately, how many people have commented and started a conversation with me because of this post? And this particular post, beyond any, has been, you know, across all the platforms I've put it across, because I've put it to LinkedIn, I've put it to Facebook, I've put it to TikTok, and it's going to go to Instagram soon. And again, don't be afraid to reuse stuff. We'll probably come to that in a minute as well.
Yep.
But, you know, ultimately the conversations that have happened and people going, oh, you look like a really nice guy. And yeah, I can see that. And it's kind of a bit of a gateway drug. If people are excited about that, then they'll come back for more and they'll watch some stuff. So, you know, as a metric, how many people watched the whole 60 seconds? The vast majority of them, as opposed to, you know, swirling away after 5 or 10 seconds. And then how many people chose to actually put a comment on it and say, that's really, or tell me more about that, or can we have a conversation about this, or whatever, along with conversations I've had with people in real life, whatever that means these days, saying, oh, I saw you were About Me, and I saw you were here, there, and everywhere. So that's how I measure the success of it, rather than going, oh, 12,000 people looked at it.
Yeah, well, I think it's a really good point. And yeah, you covered a few good points there, but actually, yeah, how do you define success? And interesting, I recorded one of these with a business coach in January, and his response to that question in the pre thing was actually define success, rather than actually sharing a post with me, because it's a very good point. So there's something we talked about there. But as you say, I think it's a combination, isn't it? Did the algorithm like it? If you're putting it on social media, but also, do people like it? And has it sort of generated conversations, which clearly it has, and hopefully that's also led to some business.
Yeah, and you know, it's the quality over quantity thing, isn't it? And we all know that, you know, you've got to be seen by 1,000 people to have a conversation with 100 to sort of get a good lead for 10 to actually sell one. And so, yes, there is a numbers game involved in some ways, but the higher quality you can put out there, and it also show, you know, because in conversation I can then turn and say, I make that. That's, you know, that's what I do, and I can do that for you. So a number of people are talking to me now about me videos for them, and I think it's one of the key 5 or 6 videos that you should have. That can really stand you out from the crowd. And I say that as opposed to what I do, because I don't have half of the things I say that we should all have, but that's, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, there's their whole do what I say, not as I do.
Exactly. But it's a really great way of engaging people, because we spend so much of our lives bumping into people virtually or physically. And, you know, we used to give over business cards, and that was a bit of a gateway and a reminder and a stuff. And people go, oh, I'll talk to Rob later on. Go in your pocket and you find it 3 weeks next Tuesday when you put the same jacket back on. And so, you know, we spend a lot of time in network meetings. Most of those happen from this seat in this office. And it's a good thing, you know, and they can be quick fire things. So it's a good way of going, hey guys, take a look at, you know, look in the chat for the links or whatever. of getting people to, oh yeah, just look at my About Me video and then talk to me afterwards. And it's a great way of just going, oh, that's interesting. Let's talk about this. Didn't know you had a dog. Do you like a barbecue? Blah, blah, blah. That really helps.
Yeah, for me, the two things was good to see. One, you're fueled by coffee, so that's good to know. And the second one, you like live music. So I was going to ask where that was. It looked like you're at Wembley or something. Or
what in the thing?
Yeah.
So there's, I think, from memory, one of them is one of my 8 Foo Fighters concerts that I've been to, and I think it's either Wembley or the Queen Elizabeth Stadium that we were at for that one. And then the other one, because a friend of mine who lives just behind me in a different house is also a music nut, and we've decided that we're going to try and go and see concerts in all the small venues of London that we can find. We're not particularly bothered about who's playing, but that would help. So actually, that was a gig in La Scala, which is King's Cross famous for, where Ziggy Stardust was filmed, and it holds about 7.5 people, really small. But it was Chris Shiflett, who is the guitarist for Foo Fighters, on his solo van tour. And he just plays really good country and western kind of music when he's not asking 80,000 people to scream Foo Fighter gigs. But I've been to lots of places.
Yeah, cool. Well, there's a whole danger we could just go down a whole live music track discussion, but we're here to talk digital marketing. We'll make that a note for one of our catch-ups that we have regularly. And talking about catch-ups, and actually you sort of mentioned about images and stuff like that, and you pointed over your shoulder. One of the things that we've explored, and I know you've been exploring quite a lot over the last few months, is the use of artificial intelligence. And I believe that the image you've got behind you is actually generated by AI. And you have posted and shared some other images of yourself that have been AI generated. So it'd be interesting to just have a little bit of a chat about that, because it's good to see some imagery where a lot of people just use ChatGPT to write something, but actually you're using it in a different way.
Yeah, and actually, what's really interesting about that is I've spent a lot of the last couple of weeks digging deep into ChatGPT and into the image generators. So AI is here, people. It's going to stay. It ain't going to go anywhere. And I think we're a long way away from Terminator Armageddon. It's not going to happen in mine or your lifetime, so we're quite safe. Okay, but it's a great tool to help you achieve various things that you wouldn't be able to do normally. And so my kind of journey in that world started with the image generators, and working out how to get the prompts to get this kind of thing right, and follow the right people, get some nuggets from them, all that kind of stuff, and you'll soon figure it all out. And it can be really hit and miss. And one of the really interesting things about all AI is that you can put the same prompt into the same engine more than once and get a wildly different thing, or put it into different engines and get different things again. So, find the right tool for the right job. That's the key thing there. And then really hone it down a lot. If you think you can just go and it's done, then, you're a long way away from that. I have described AI as a 5-year-old with lots of really good ideas, well, what it thinks is really good ideas, but you have to polish the engine a little bit. And the why kind of thing you get. So I've done a number of these kinds of things, and I spent probably a week on and off having cups of tea and trying to work it out and meet that challenge. And I can get them to look quite a lot like me now, which is quite nice. There are a few that look startlingly like me, and it's just about the tweaking. And if you ask for something that's photorealistic, you can even tell it what kind of aperture the camera lens should be and what aspect ratio, and is there smoke in the floor, all the things that make a photograph look like a photograph. Do I feel threatened by it? Not at all. I think there's things that will peel away, but it will open opportunities that will help me. And so I spent some time with ChatGPT over the last couple of weeks. We are seeing such a huge flurry of chat-driven social media, digital material out there, which is so clearly somebody just going, write me a post about what it is to be a digital. And you can see the bullet list, and there's some emojis and all the stuff that do, and that's kind of where it's at. But actually, what I've learned, and I use ChatGPT mostly for that, is have a good conversation, tell it where it went wrong, ask it to do it again, train it in what you want. And I spent yesterday, I've got a sheet of, a stack of paper that I printed it. But I was like, imagine you are one of these kinds of people, do this thing, give me a matrix grid with lots of ideas of things to do as posts. Hey, I really like that one. Can you give me this? So I've now got ChatGPT to go, generate me some prompts. I can then deliver that in a format I can pump into Excel. I can then find the ones that I like out of there. And those prompts are great because we all work in isolation. So we need something to help us think of it as something.
Yep.
And go, hey, I really like that one. Can we expand it a little bit? So, write a post about it, do that stuff. That's great. Oh, can you write me I'd like to make it a video post. Can you give me a visual, a storyboard? Yes, I can. You give me a script. So now I've got all of these things that would have taken me so long to do myself as a caveat to anything that any of these things give you. Mark your homework, look through it, make the changes. Don't just cut and paste and use. It's a great starting point. All of the things that I produce from an AI engine are the things that I would have produced anyway, but it's just a darn sight quicker. I could have, written myself that kind of thing, or done something, or done some research, or do whatever. Yeah. But if you want to use these things wisely, use them to save time. Again, one of the things I use AI for, because it's built into a lot of the software we use as well. I, like you, used to do a video podcast just like this. And one of the onerous tasks was editing some of the rubbish out and doing all the stuff and everything else. And now you can throw it into one of the online AI engines and it will slice it and dice it and give you 12 shorts that are about a minute long. And you can then do something with it. It's not perfect,
but it's a good start.
It's a good start, and what it means is you can, we're only one person.
Yeah.
And the more I can work smart, not hard, and I'm not afraid of hard work, but work smart and go, right, well, here's 12 shorts from an hour's worth of video. 6 of them are great, and 6 of them are, well, you can go back in and edit and do some stuff to it to make it the right thing.
Yeah.
And you bring it into your video engine, and then you put an overlay, and then you put I'm talking about this photograph, and you put it in there and whatever.
Yeah.
That's what I'm using those tools for, and that's what's allowing me to meet my target of having higher quality, better positioned, more focused content that helps to educate, inform, entertain, interact with people.
Yeah. And going back to kind of, like I said, your 3 words are bold, dynamic, and original. There's that you need to put that original slant on it. I think that's
exactly. Everything has to look like I wrote it.
Yeah. And need your voice. Yeah.
And even if you'd have, back in the good old days when we were students, and both you and I are old enough to remember being a student with a pen and a paper rather than anything else. But we would have gone to a library. We would have found some source material. We would have highlighted it, and you could taken a photocopy, highlighted it, found the quotes, done the stuff, written an essay about whatever. We're just doing that in a more modern way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then writing and doing stuff and everything else. So yes, I can get a blog to market quicker, or I can walk away and give it some videos to chop up. But then I've still got to come back, make sure what it's giving me is what I want it to have, and then how am I going to frame that around something else for it to be the right thing?
Yeah. No, I think that's really good advice, and a really good share for people. And for those that haven't gone and researched AI at the moment, go and do it, because it will save you lots of time.
Yeah,
but make sure what you do is original. Yeah. Perfect. Obviously we talked a bit about some social media platforms and stuff like that. I mean, do you and you mentioned you're just starting to experiment with TikTok, but do you have any what do any work better than others for you?
Yes. Do you know what? I had a conversation today with somebody who is a graphic designer, and we were talking about niching, right? And, a lot of the business coaches go niche down really tight to the smallest influence. Actually, if I niche down that tight, I know a lot of things I don't want to do, which is fine, but I don't want to over niche my market, because part of my and you'll probably be in the same camp. Creating for different people in different ways and doing different things is actually part of the excitement of my job. I don't want to do the same thing. But what I've kind of taken on board this year is having looked at my stats for my socials over January, you and I have had this conversation a few times already this year, but I came back to the beginning of this year nice and refreshed after taking some time off for Christmas and whatever. So I've kind of got a bit of a proper, monitoring of my platforms going on, which I let slip over the last little while. But different platforms bring me different people for different things. And therefore, niching the market on a platform is perfectly acceptable. Mm-hmm. So I know Facebook brings me event and portrait and family photography. And I can get some headshots and things like that. And that's partially and primarily because of the groups, the way that groups work.
Yeah.
You're targeting into top tips for weddings. That's what people are looking for. So I niche that quite strongly on my pages. And then I share from the pages into the groups and that's whatever. And I can tell you from the stats from this year, specifically, I'll put a post about being in a particular venue or a particular thing, and people, I'm looking at that venue. Tell me, well, it's definitely come from Facebook.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is more about professionalism and showing the world that I'm, a consulting mind and I can do these things. And what you'll notice with will notice with the feed coming up now is that I'm going to start sharing a lot more knowledge and being a bit one of those, voices of stuff. To really show people that I know what I'm talking about and not, again, we don't oversell. We still have, all of these things are there to make us help a sale. So people get a bit shy and reticent. But Instagram is just a photography portfolio more than anything else. I get a lot of photographers following me. I get models following me, things like that. Does it generate work? It's hard to say. And TikTok is kind of the unknown wild west of the world, isn't it?
It is.
I think we're all trying to work out what TikTok will do for us, but I'm getting good traction with video shorts.
Yeah.
That's where I'm putting, the 60 second, not even that, the 15, 20, 30 second clips that are stuff that goes on and where, those kind of things. And I will cross post.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody, we shouldn't be afraid of doing that. We have to consider that all of those things, if I talk to a lot of small businesses because of course I'm giving them digital content as whatever else. I posted that 3 weeks ago. I can't possibly do it again. Right. I don't know who I can attribute the next phrase to, but somebody said it, which is the only person who sees 100% of what you post is you. And we know the algorithm will kneecap everybody. So even if you did post something, it doesn't mean that people have seen it already.
Yeah.
Especially if it's of a different time of day or anything like that. So that's one reason to reuse stuff. Even if you had your hair cut and it was taken from last year, so what? Some of the sample photos I'm using in my event world were taken 3 or 5 years ago. Doesn't make it a relevant photo. And we have to think of ourselves as campaigners. And as I say to a lot of people, when it comes to Christmas time, and the Christmas ads are out for like John Lewis or somewhere, you get it on the telly, you see it at the cinema, you see the little plushy doll, you hear the song of the year on the radio, you get Moz the Monster creeping out of the newspaper. It becomes part of your fabric for 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, and you don't just see the advert once.
No.
It's shown regularly.
Exactly right. And you go, oh, great advert. Oh, that's how you do a Christmas advert. I don't think, oh, great this year. Somebody got paid for that or whatever. Right? Yeah. So, oftentimes we'll watch an advert and go, what were the ideas they threw away to let that one get through? Ultimately, reuse. And one of the greatest ways of reusing now is to take something big and make small things happen from it. So take a long video, make, a lot of shorts, take a blog, and then you can write some bullet points out of it. You can make a carousel in Instagram. Some people will choose to look at one format more than another. So some people love to read text and will sit and read a page of text all day long, but they won't watch a video or they won't watch a carousel. So you've got to mix it all up. You've got to see what works. You've got to look at your stats. Really look at your stats.
Yeah. Just going back to what you said, and an interesting one, and actually I think this will appeal to a lot more people than, what you just said there about take a long post like a blog and chop it up, which is great advice. But a lot of people struggle to do the long post. But you can flip it, right? So if you're posting regularly, right, and you're putting some text and there's some in the bottom, you can actually take a bunch of them and create a blog. Do it the other way around.
So interestingly, so my 3 words. So let's just touch on 3 words. I go into every year with 3 words that try and define the stuff that I'm trying to create for the year. And if what I'm putting out there doesn't reach those words, then it doesn't sing for this year, right? And it's just things I've done for a little while. And so I hit on bold, dynamic, and original. And then I thought, well, I can write some posts about that. Now, I could have written one blog that covered all 3 with a front and a back, and be done. Or you can do what I did, which is write 4, going, I've got 3. Do you have 3? You can start to ask your audience about what you're doing. Have you thought about having 3 words, which you hadn't, and then you did? And that's really, spark the conversation. But once I'd written all 4 blogs or posts or something, then I could smash it all together to make one big one as a blog on the website. And I haven't done it yet, but I could do a live. I could do a animation around it. I can reuse bold, dynamic, and original, and the reasons why I'm using them ad infinitum throughout the year. And so that's really, we're in such a quick throwaway society for everything. But, we tend to think, oh, I've written a post about that. Time to move on to the next thing because we're all talking about blah, which is only true for, calendar events. Christmas has been and gone. Or it's Easter and been and gone. Whatever it might be, fine, And again, I specifically didn't do it, but and nothing bad if you did, but I didn't do anything about Super Bowl.
Oh, I did. I did a poll.
But I will be, because there's a really interesting stat that came out today. And about whether you should work, because the halftime performers don't get paid for their halftime.
No, but I'm sure they make a lot of good sales though.
Right, so this is the thing: don't work for free. Is what we always get told, right? But actually, sometimes it's very useful to work for free because we gain different kinds of reason, different purposes for it. So interestingly, Usher, who was the halftime performer this year, who I'm not really around for, but I thought it was quite a good performance, all said and done. His sales on Apple iTunes has gone really high, but Taylor Swift has gone through the roof, and only because she was on the screen for 13 seconds. So be there and do something. The other one was did you see the Grammys this year?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so the Grammys, great things. Musical award went to Tracy Chapman and Luke Combs. I can't remember, but he's done a cover of Fast Car, which you and I can remember from ages ago. She's notoriously private, doesn't tour very much, do all the things. And they did a duet, which is just brilliant to watch, actually. And I got chills. I got my head. Talk about live music, right? The sales for Tracy Chapman have gone through the roof. The young generation, what do we call them now? Gen Z?
I lose track now.
Gen Xers and Zs or whatever. But they're not really introduced, some of the music we would know and love, but because they get put as a trending soundtrack on TikToks, it's suddenly Kate Bush running up that hill has had massive sales because it was in Stranger Things. And it's really interesting about how sort of the use of soundtracks on reels and stuff like that and music has boosted a lot of sales. But it also, if you get the right trending soundtrack, then your views will go through the roof. And just in case people aren't aware, what you can do is you can have your soundtrack and the soundtrack piece of music, but then you can slide it down. So you've still got your soundtrack on, being heard, but Running Up That Hill is on volume 0. So the algorithm thinks you're using it, so you get all the reach from it, but it's your voice and words that are being heard rather than Kate Bush. So
I think one of the interesting things about that, and that's on certain platforms, so that'd be things like TikTok. Whereas other platforms such as YouTube, if you put copyrighted music in the background, quite often some bands will just block you completely.
I think you're okay on YouTube Shorts. So YouTube Shorts is a really interesting thing because it's been around for years, right? but they've never really leveraged it, and they missed a trick because they could have been TikTok before TikTok were there. Because
Yeah.
they were, and so I think the rights usages are okay for snippets.
Yeah.
And the difference, I think, is also that if you're posting to TikTok and Instagram, the music comes from them. You choose the soundtrack on the platform that, you know, if you're using the app on your phone to do the posting.
Yeah.
So therefore, they've got the usage rights for the 15 seconds they're going to give you.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas if you embed a piece of music onto YouTube and they scan it, go, well, you're using Kate Bush, and it's a bit of a minefield because they can lose the rights just as quickly as they gain them.
You know, I was about to say that, because didn't that just happen on TikTok or something? They lost the rights to a whole back catalogue, and I can't remember which catalogue it was. And it did cause some issues.
You'll go into a YouTube of yours and they'll go, oh, soundtrack has been muted. And it's not until you go back in and check it that they will put a substitute soundtrack back into it.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting stuff, isn't it? But I think one of the other things, you know, sort of like that, just touch on what we've just been talking about, is actually there's an awful lot of good ideas there for creating content just by what's been on the telly or recent events, and quite often people miss out on that. And yeah, you mentioned, did I do anything for the Super Bowl? It was actually because I was doing some video editing on Sunday, and for some reason, and I was popped onto LinkedIn for a distraction, and somebody's post popped up about which team are you supporting in the Super Bowl, and I thought, oh, that's an idea. So I did a quick poll, and it's actually had quite a lot of reach, surprisingly.
I find weekend LinkedIn use incredibly, shockingly, surprisingly high.
Yeah.
And I can remember back in the day when LinkedIn was literally just an online CV.
Yeah.
And we used it for that purpose alone. And we then, if we were in a job where we were recruiting people, we might have done a bit of research to find out where Rob was and did he know somebody and can I pick up a phone to John Smith and whatever. And then, of course, it's kind of upped its game and become a bit more of a social network since new owners came and took it on. I shan't name check them. But yeah, you know, and whilst it's still largely professional, and I think it's peerless and I've had this conversation with a few people, it's peerless in its market, as in where else do you go for really good professional networking like that? There is a certain amount of frivolity that happens in there. You know, some of the posts I've put in there, you know, the polls of again, the algorithm swings and roundabouts, but polls are good and were great, not so much as they were. But I put one out there last week about there's two types of people in the world. You either take a piece of paper in a portrait or landscape, and that's how you start writing. What type are you? And that spurned some great conversations up, and people do. So, you know, don't be afraid of the frivolity and be, you know, showing those questions. You know, it doesn't always have to be, you know, oh, this is what I do, or here's my thinking on, or I'm a thought leader in that, or something.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And I actually do have a Friday fun poll. And last week I did the sausage sandwich game, and that's been my best reaching post for ages. Yeah. I was just absolutely taken aback how far that's gone. So yeah, that was quite good fun. Now I'm really conscious about time, so we will kind of move towards wrapping this up, because you and we know we can talk forever because we do regularly. So as part of the prep, I did ask you, and I ask every one of my guests, to just prep two things. First is a good tip for everyone to do. Something that the people business owners should be really trying to do to make the digital marketing work.
You're asking me to remember what I wrote now, because I haven't got it open next to me.
I can remind you if you want.
Yeah, go on, because I'd like to be consistent.
You look prepped. I had it on a piece of paper. And what we're talking about, I should say, if we're listening to this on the podcast, and you get a chance to see either of us on YouTube, you should, because we're having a bit of a shirt off. Who's got the wildest shirt?
I have a new shirt on specifically for today.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, your good tip really is just do it.
Yeah, yeah, and thank you for the reminder, because that's really useful for me. But we can get so lost in analysis paralysis and not being ready and whatever. How many people have gone, I'm not ready to go to launch my business because I haven't got a logo. Nobody ever made a sale because they had a logo. It's just one of the things that would stand out. And so, ultimately, I've had lots of conversations with people about, I don't like going live or seeing myself on screen, or I feel a bit like a numpty or whatever. Yeah, of course you do, right? But just do it, because first things first, initially it's going to be your mum, your brother, and your best mate that are going to see it, and probably not that many other people, right? And then you'll kind of grow and you'll get a bit more confident and you'll learn how to not ramble a little bit or whatever it is that works for you. And you'll get better. And if you don't look back at your work in, this time next year and go, God, what I did last year was a bit, then you've not really advanced much, right? And of course, that's a, an exponential curve, isn't it?
Yeah.
You should be moving with the times and the trends and everything else. But ultimately, going, bless you, you should be going, I am better now than I was before. I speak better, I'm slower, I'm more considered, that. So just do it, because if you don't do it, you'll never get better. Nobody ever ran a marathon the first time they left the front door and go, I'm going for a run now. You build up a little bit and you get to longer lengths or quicker times or anything like that. So, don't get lost in the fear cycle. Just get out there, get it done, get it right. And if you're a little bit afraid of doing this, maybe one of the ways of doing it is to have a hotspot or a highlight or be the guest speaker in a networking group.
Yeah.
Where you've got a bit of an audience and you've got a bit of a thing and you're just like, well, okay, I've only got to talk about tennis about, and I'm the expert in the room. Just remember, you're always the expert in the room for what you're talking about. Yes, you're allowed to make mistakes. That's perfectly fine. But ultimately, find the topic that's right, do the thing you want to talk about, and you'll be there. That's fine. And, so what if somebody else has said it before you? Not everybody's following them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds
good. And your one bad thing, one thing not to do. Can you remember that?
Not at all. No, I've got.
Okay. What you put on the sheet was the need to be ever present and ever telling. Share some bits of personal life, but not all. Remember to put things down and put things down every now and again.
Yeah, it's really interesting, that one, isn't it? Because we kind of like, you've got to know about me as a person and see everything that I do and what I have for breakfast 7 days a week and always there. And, we're addicted to holding our phones and it's just pinged. I've got to find out what happened. I have, one of my biggest regrets actually is not getting a work phone when I started business. It's still my personal phone, but I do have a good practice of leaving it, if we're sat downstairs watching a movie, I'll leave it in a different room or whatever, so it's not next to me, which is one thing. But I think we're guilty as a generation of oversharing every last thing we do. For what? And I think it's okay to show people certain aspects of who you are and what you know. Like we touched on before, my About Me video tells you that I like a good barbecue. I have a pet dog. I like to drink coffee. All of those things are great, and you will find out about those things about me pretty rapidly when we sit down and talk.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily give you absolutely every last minute and every last thing and every last detail. You don't need to overshare. You have to draw a line somewhere and have a barrier. The world doesn't need to know that this is what I'm doing right now. It doesn't. Where's the benefit in that? Will it bring people to know me better? Well, it might do. And sometimes some of those things that are, deeply personal are actually quite good to extend out to market. For instance, you might have a bit of a health scare going on, right? Well, first of all, it's quite good to, you don't need to overshare any of that in too much detail. But it's good to let your audience know because they might be have trouble getting you. But also, if it's one of those things that people are afraid to go to a doctor about, they go, oh, do you know what? Maybe I'll go now. But you don't need too much going on. You need to tell the world about it and all that kind of stuff. So draw your lines, know where to stop. Yes, it is called social media and social is the key word, but we all use those platforms for so much more than they were ever designed for. Facebook wasn't designed to be a business platform at the beginning. It was for old mates to get together again. Instagram was designed to share photos, but if they're going to leverage and traction and earn money, they've got to get businesses involved and charge money.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So yeah, just don't overshare. People don't need to know too much. Otherwise, they'll not learn anything about you when they finally meet you.
No, that's good. Good tip. Good tip. Excellent. All right. And finally, in the wrap up, so if people want to get in contact with you or to be able to follow you, obviously we'll share all the links in the show notes and stuff like that. But what is the best way to get hold of you, mate? Yeah.
There's a website, there's an email address, there's a telephone number. You can find me like a rash all over Instagrams, and I have multiple accounts depending on the niching thing, depending on what I'm doing. So Gander Photo for photography. I have a thing called The Way You Are for boudoir and art photography. Just because they're it's worth separating them a little bit. Frankly, send me some smoke signals, not today because it's horrible out. I don't care how you want to get hold of me, just get hold of me. If you think a number of people I've spoken to gone, I was going to call you to take photos for my event, but I thought you'd be busy. Did you even ring to find out? Or whatever. So just we all have. I mean, sometimes it can be an overwhelm, isn't it? Yeah, I messaged you, but you didn't get back. Well, was it a Facebook message? Was it a Facebook page message? Was it a WhatsApp? Was it a text? So it can be a bit stuffed somewhere.
Yeah. That is the challenge now with modern world. You can
so we need
so many different ways.
Somewhere we'll build an aggregator and we'll all be okay. It's probably out there.
Yeah.
Found it yet. But yeah, carrier pigeon will do. Sending me a note in a pizza box with a nice pizza in it, that'll help as well.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, can't have carrier pigeon. This is about digital, mate.
That's true. That's true. But analog is good, right? What's it? You wrote a post. You wrote one of your things was how do you read books?
Yes, it was. That's right.
Is it Kindle? Is it paper? Is it this? And I've got a follow up for that coming soon.
Yeah,
definitely. So yeah, just have all of those conversations, and I've got a plea to everyone as well, if that's okay.
Of course it is.
Right. One of the things I've got a bit of a soapbox. I'm not going to, but and you'll have this, right? You'll bump into somebody in real life. Go, I saw that post. It was really good. Great. Did you put a comment? Did you put a like? Did you? We have so many lurkers on our feed, and I've kind of. I had an analogy for somebody. It's a bit like being a radio presenter, isn't it? You don't know who you're talking to, how wide the audience is. We can gain some stats. So many people looked, or they were over here, or whatever. And actually, I wish the stats in LinkedIn were better than they are, but they're not. They probably are if I put my hand in my pocket and took a paid version for a different conversation. But everybody, if you're watching this on whatever platform and you've enjoyed it, or even if you haven't, because we like a bit of constructive criticism is as good as a pat on the back.
Yeah.
Comment, put a like, share it with a friend, do something that's going to just help us track up those algorithms. The one thing that we can all do to help everybody hit up the algorithm and do stuff and be seen is to leave a comment and do the things and share around and do all that stuff. So stop being lurkers. Nobody's going to tell you off for leaving a message. Nobody's going to, as long as it's a nice message, of course. But please, like it, show some love. If you've taken something from today's conversation, other than the both that were snappy dresses, and you've helped, then say thanks, guys. That was really useful.
Yeah, that's it. And obviously, this goes out on YouTube. So the other thing to add is please subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's the final shot. All right. Well, it's been great catching up with you. Thanks ever so much for your time today. Really, really enjoyed our chat. And hopefully, you shared loads and loads of really good information. Hopefully, people who are listening or watching have got lots of things to take away and go and play with.